Hello and welcome back to Redirecting. In this video, I'm going to be sharing a very unfortunate yet sad story with you all. Many of you may have already heard of the incident where 3 young men have lost their lives. Apparently, there was an incident where they were attempting to rob some people, and they had on masks and weapons. And a homeowner opened fire, and all 3 of the young men were killed in the fire. It was said to be an exchange of gunfire. Okay, so not just one-way shooting. Anyway, the incident happening at 4 in the morning, or just after 4 in the morning, shows that they were up to mischief. 3 young black men, and apparently the shooter is a black man as well. And so what I wanted to focus on this in this particular video is not so much as the whole scenario of what happened, but the responses of people on the internet. Now, it has been said that many are believing that it was overkill to take the lives of these 3 young men in this apparent attempted robbery. Initially, people were thinking that it was a home invasion, but police are saying that the shooting took place outside, but it was an attempted robbery. So many times details can get kind of swapped and switched around, but the overall story is very tragic in that 3 young men have lost their lives at the hand of a homeowner who apparently felt threatened. With whatever this was, the 3 young men had on masks and they were armed, and this man, being armed as well, did what he felt he had to do. So there have been no arrests made in this situation. Now, I wanted to talk about the responses that many have had across the web. Many are believing that this is overkill, that the man didn't have to kill them. But my question is, what do you expect someone to do when you have 3 young men who are armed, 4 o'clock in the morning, they're on your property or in front of your house or what have you. You don't know what they're going to do. All you know is you see masks and weapons. What do? Do you wait to see what they're going to do, or do you defend yourself? This reminds me of a case years ago where there was a woman. She was home, and a young man broke into her home with a gun, but he didn't realize that she had a gun too. When she heard him coming into her home, she got herself ready, and when he came in, she blew him away. Now, in both cases, we're talking about black on black. So this was a black woman. The young man that she killed was black as well. Now, in that case, you had the family who was saying that she didn't have to kill him, that she could have made another choice. And so I believe that our people are just very unrealistic. When you have our young people out here doing these things, and you expect people to give a soft arm approach to an immediate danger that's right there in their faces. You expect people to say, well, you know what, these are young men. I'm not going to defend myself. I'll just see what they're going to do. I'm going to see how far they take this. This woman, she wasn't a young woman. I believe she's a middle-aged woman, but this is another story. She had to do what she had to do. This young man was in her house with a weapon in his hand, and she had to defend herself. For anyone who thinks that she didn't have, because the family members came on the news and they stated that she didn't have to kill him. So what if she had other people in the house, or children or grandchildren, or just herself alone? Are you saying that she had no right to defend herself, that because this is a young black man that she should have mercy and hopefully he doesn't kill her and she gets to live to tell the story? It's very unrealistic for our people to think this way. Instead of us dealing with the crimes that are happening in our communities, we're looking at people who defends and protects themselves as people who went too far, took things too far. Now, when we're talking about cases like Tamir Rice and Trayvon Martin and, other cases where our men have been gunned down, they were unarmed, no threat, no nothing, but they were gunned down. In those cases, absolutely, I agree that they should not have lost their lives in the way that they did by the people who decided to pull the trigger. But when you have a case where young men are out there creating mischief, threatening the lives of others, then what do you expect to happen to them? Now, we have a very close family friend who is an upstanding citizen who had a legal right to carry a weapon, living in the city of Detroit. Very responsible man. He was middle-aged at the time. 3 young men, young black men in the city of Detroit, approached him. I believe it was on Greenfield and Grand River. This was a long time ago, you all. But anyway, they approached him, and I believe one of them had a weapon, 1 or 2 of them. Anyway, he saw this. They were attempting to rob him. If I'm not mistaken, they were trying to take his vehicle. Because he had a license to carry, he opened fire and he killed one of them. When we heard this, we were, of course, saddened that the young man lost his life, but glad that our friend, which was a friend of my husband's actually, is still alive. He protected himself and he's still alive. Now, I'm pretty sure the family members of the young man, or the young man who lost his life, I'm pretty sure they were upset that they lost a loved one. But somebody should have sat him down and told him, you can't just go brandishing weapons trying to rob people and take things from them and expect to live. Because not everybody's going to stand there and be your victim. This is what happens when we do not police our own communities and tell our young people how to be, and that is not the way to live, and that's not how you deal with things. We get upset and bent out of shape when death comes to them in this way when they're doing mischief. But what do you expect people to do? I'm trying to figure this out. What do you expect people to do when your son or your nephew or whatever, your brother, is trying to rob and kill someone and they defend themselves and they get the jump on them? What did you expect them to do? Sacrifice their own lives so this thief could live? Our people are just so unrealistic and not right sometimes and not fair in their judgment. Nobody has to be the victim of your loved one because somebody didn't teach him. Don't expect another person to sacrifice their own life so this person could continue on with their crimes. Don't expect another person to risk the lives of their own family so that this thief and this robber and this possible killer could live. It's just not fair to think that a person should just not do all that they can to protect themselves. This is what happens when we do not take a more active role in trying to fix what's happening in our communities. We just sit back, we twiddle our thumbs, we get up in arms when people outside of us or other races do things to us, but we don't speak enough about what we're doing to ourselves. Instead, you have people saying that, oh, you didn't have to kill him. Oh, that was overkill. This is a very sad and unfortunate situation, but this man in this situation felt the need to protect himself. What were they doing there with masks? Why were they armed? What were they there to do? They were up to no good, and if they were up to no good and they lost their lives in the process, what do you expect people to do? Now, the one thing that concerned me about all of this, it shows how our people think. Many of our people, not all, but many of our people are not right in their thinking. They're completely wicked in their thinking. I saw memes circulating, one showing these 3 young men with wings and clouds behind them. It referred to them as angels, and it says these angels died in battle. These 3 soldiers, it referred to them as angels and soldiers. Fallen soldiers. Fallen soldiers to what? That's the thing that I'm trying to figure out. Fallen soldiers to what? So you think that you can live a life of crime, try to rob people and do all this kind of stuff, and that you're going to get angel's wings when you meet your maker. That's why we as a people, we can't progress as a people. You have pockets of people doing things, but as a people, as long as we have this messed up attitude that people are supposed to embrace us in our mess, as long as we continue to have that attitude, we're going to continue to see stories like this. The scripture tells us to cry aloud and spare not, and lift up our voices like trumpets in Zion, and show our people their transgressions. But you know what our people want? They want to be coddled right to hell. Hold me, cradle me, cover me in the midst of my sin. In the midst of all this mess that I'm doing out here, cover me, coddle me. I need to be cradled. Well, you're being cradled right to the grave, because the Most High is not playing. We cannot continue to cover and coddle the sins of our people as they go from bad to worse. Again, it's unfortunate that these young men lost their lives, but what is fortunate is that the man who felt the need to defend his home and his property, he didn't lose his life. It was said that there was gunfire exchange. So these young men did not show up there to be innocent bystanders in anything. They were willing participants in their own death, because they believed that they were going to enter into a situation where folk weren't going to defend themselves. But I guess they rolled up on the wrong property that day, because on the other side of those doors was someone who did defend themselves. Okay, family, I'm out. Be sure to ring the bell to be notified of new uploads on this channel, and also comment, share, like, and subscribe.